Cherokee Marsh is named for a hunting club that used to be on the land on the North Unit. It's a bit of a misnomer. No association with the Cherokee people. The name stuck for the entire area around the headwaters of the Yahara River here. The first step toward restoring the native plant community there in the late 60s was establish prairie plantings in the former agricultural lands. Another thing we did early on was fill in some of the ditches to restore the hydrology to the marsh. Much of the marsh had been drained, particularly east of the parking lot through the central portion of the North Unit, and so it had really altered the hydrology, which leads to degradation of the native plant community, particularly the sedge meadows that were found all through that part of the marsh. As a result, a lot of the marsh got invaded with Phragmites and reed canary grass and some hybrid cattail, but there are still some really good quality sedge meadow pockets. We have riverine marsh along the conservation park, right along the Yahara River, that grades from sedge meadow to a shrub car, kind of wetland, with patches of shrubs growing in it, to emergent marsh vegetation right along the edge of the river. My predecessor did a lot of planting emergent vegetation in the riverbed to help stabilize the marsh and reintroduce vegetation to build up that matrix again. He had varying levels of success with that. One of the most successful things was getting American lotus, which is a native plant, established in the upper reaches of the Yahara River along Cherokee Marsh north and south units. And so that was really helpful in slowing down the wave action that happens on this long stretch of river, and that helps reduce the amount of erosion along the edge of the marsh. Some other past work at the North Unit has included clearing the uplands, particularly the woodland areas that had become overgrown with invasive shrubs such as honeysuckle and buckthorn. As most of the Midwest, a lot of the area had not burned regularly over the last 150 years, and so the shrub layer became too overgrown and also invaded with non-native species. And so we've done a lot of work to remove not only buckthorn and honeysuckle, but also non-fire tolerant species such as ash and cherry that have moved in and started to fill in the canopy in this oak woodland. As our fire program has grown, we've been able to provide prescribed burns across most of the north and south units of Cherokee Marsh to be able to have larger landscape scale burns that are 100 acres or so in size. And doing so allows us to have a burn that has a variety of intensities and fire effects. There are always cranes nesting every year in all three units of Cherokee Marsh, and it's extremely valuable in terms of wildlife habitat, both due to its size and because of its plant diversity. A lot of the wetlands have been flooded over the years just because of the higher lake levels that we have now compared to historically, but also somewhat because of stormwater runoff over the years. There's been some salinification of some of the wetland areas, particularly in the south unit. When Parks acquired that last remaining parcel in the Mendota unit, they removed the house, but they left the basement and filled it in with rubble to create pockets of space that are now used for snakes that hibernate. More recent work in the Mendota unit has included removing the invasive shrub layer, and that work has been driven primarily by volunteers, the Friends of Cherokee Marsh.
The group got its start when a local landowner wanted to develop multiple parcels of land in and around the marsh. There was concern about the effect that new development could have on the marsh. They realized that by forming and speaking as a group, their voice would be stronger. From those initial meetings 17 years ago, the Friends of Cherokee Marsh was born. We still pay attention to planned developments around the marsh, and when projects are proposed, we advocate for plans that will protect the wetlands, but our activities have expanded into a number of new areas. We help out with restoration activities in the wetlands and the surrounding prairies and woods. We also support environmental education. We encourage appreciation and enjoyment of the marsh, and we promote citizen science activities. One of our projects, we sponsor 5 interns who work 1 day a week all summer. They do a lot of hard work pulling, cutting, and digging the non-native plants that would otherwise crowd out the native flowers and grasses that we want. We work with city staff to decide on projects to work on, and we provide experienced volunteers to supervise the interns in the field. In the seasons when we don't have interns, we sponsor volunteer events because just about any time of year there is always something that needs doing. To learn more about the plant and animal life in the marsh, we promote citizen science activities, including frog and bumblebee counts and plant surveys. We support outdoor environmental education by raising money for transportation. For over 50 years, the Madison School District has had a program to bring school children to the marsh to learn about wetlands, but that can work only if the classes have a way to get to the conservation park, and we provide that piece of it by funding bus transportation. We sponsor a free naturalist-led bird and nature walk every month of the year, and we sponsor other seasonal walks and canoe and kayak tours on the upper Yahara River.
Looking to the future in the Mendota unit, something we'd like to do is start managing the shrub car habitat in the marsh. There's one interesting feature. The Mendota unit is a stand of alder in the marsh. That's a little unusual this far south. It provides a unique habitat that isn't very common in this part of Wisconsin. So working in that area and making sure to remove invasive buckthorn from the marsh will improve its value and allow the alder to continue to thrive, as well as improving the habitat for the birds that use these thickets for food and cover as they migrate through, and breeding birds that live there as well.
To me, Cherokee Marsh is several things. It's Dane County's largest wetland. It's an important piece of the ecology of the Yahara Lakes, a beautiful natural area loaded with wildlife and interesting plant life that is fun to explore and enjoy any time of year. We're always looking for new volunteers to help out outdoors as well as in other ways.
To get involved and help shape the next 50 years, see the Madison Parks website for volunteer opportunities.